A black woman is accused of shoplifting by a racist store manager. The next day, the black woman shocks the store when she returns. Jasmine Miller stepped out of the bustling afternoon streets and into the cool, air-conditioned lobby of Prestige Palace. The high-end department store was a gleaming beacon of luxury, its polished marble floors reflecting the soft, ambient lighting. The air was infused with the faint scent of expensive perfume, and the quiet hum of classical music played in the background, creating a sense of calm exclusivity. Jasmine paused just inside the entrance, glancing around to get her bearings. She was here to find a birthday gift for her best friend, something special to show her appreciation. Rachel had been her rock through thick and thin, and Jasmine wanted to give her something that matched her elegance and strength. Jasmine's eyes fell on a display of jewelry to her right. She made her way over, her heels clicking softly on the floor. As she approached, she noticed the intricate designs of the necklaces and bracelets laid out under the glass. Each piece seemed to sparkle with a life of its own, capturing the light and bending it into a spectrum of colors. As Jasmine moved from one glass case to another, a woman behind the counter glanced up from the register. Amanda Sterling, the store manager, had been watching the floor with her usual hawk-like vigilance. She noticed Jasmine immediately, her gaze sharpening. Amanda was a tall woman in her early 40s. She prided herself on maintaining the store's reputation for exclusivity, often taking it upon herself to personally monitor the clientele. Amanda's eyes followed Jasmine as she browsed. There was nothing outwardly unusual about the customer, yet something about Jasmine didn't sit right with Amanda. She couldn't quite place it, but a feeling in her gut told her to be cautious. Years of experience had taught Amanda to trust her instincts. She signaled David Lopez, the security guard standing near the entrance, with a slight nod of her head. David, who had been watching the flow of customers without much interest, straightened at Amanda's cue. He was in his late 20s, with dark hair and a solid build, wearing the standard-issue black uniform of the store's security team. He didn't question Amanda's signals. He had learned long ago that it was easier to follow orders than to question them. "Keep an eye on her," Amanda said quietly, nodding towards Jasmine. "I have a feeling about this one." David hesitated. "Her? She looks like she's just shopping." Amanda's eyes narrowed slightly. "That's what they all look like before they try something. Just stay alert." David nodded, feeling a slight discomfort in his stomach, but not wanting to argue. He turned his attention back to Jasmine, who had moved to another section of the jewelry display. Jasmine was oblivious to the scrutiny. She continued browsing, occasionally picking up a piece to examine more closely. She held a delicate silver bracelet in her hand, admiring the way the light played off its intricate design. It reminded her of something Rachel would love, elegant yet understated. As she turned it over in her hands, considering her options, she sensed a shift in the atmosphere around her. Looking up, Jasmine noticed Amanda watching her from across the counter. Their eyes met for a brief moment before Amanda looked away, pretending to busy herself with rearranging a display. Jasmine frowned slightly but shrugged it off. High-end stores often had staff watching closely. It wasn't anything new. She continued browsing, moving toward a case that displayed a row of elegant necklaces. She was completely focused on the jewelry, unaware that Amanda had stepped out from behind the counter and was moving in her direction. David followed Amanda's lead, trailing a few steps behind. Jasmine felt the presence of someone nearby and looked up. Amanda was standing just a few feet away, her expression polite but guarded. Jasmine offered a small smile. "Good afternoon," Jasmine said, trying to break the sudden tension she felt in the air. Amanda returned the smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Good afternoon. May I help you find something?" Jasmine shook her head. "I'm just looking for now, thank you. I'm trying to find a gift for a friend." Amanda's smile tightened. "Of course. Let me know if you need any assistance." She lingered for a moment longer than necessary before turning away, her eyes flicking toward David, who was watching from a distance. Jasmine watched Amanda walk away, a slight sense of unease creeping into her thoughts. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, but she brushed it aside, focusing again on her task. She reached out to pick up a necklace, holding it up to the light to see how it caught the shine. As Jasmine admired the necklace, Amanda walked back to the counter, her movements purposeful. She watched Jasmine closely, her suspicion growing. To her, Jasmine's calm demeanor seemed like a front, a practiced act that masked an ulterior motive. She didn't know exactly what it was about Jasmine that made her uneasy, but she was determined to find out. "David," Amanda called softly, catching the security guard's attention again. "Stay close. I think we might need to intervene soon." David nodded, feeling the weight of Amanda's words settle in his gut. He positioned himself closer to Jasmine, watching as she browsed. Jasmine, engrossed in her search for the perfect gift, remained blissfully unaware of the eyes tracking her every move. In this ordinary setting, an ordinary day, the seeds of conflict had been planted. The atmosphere, once calm and inviting, now held a hint of tension, like a storm waiting to break. Jasmine continued to browse through the jewelry, running her fingers over a gold necklace with a delicate pendant. She admired the craftsmanship, momentarily lost in thought. She was mentally weighing the price against the significance of the gift when she felt someone approach her again. Glancing up, she saw Amanda Sterling walking directly toward her, this time with a firm and purposeful stride. Jasmine felt a flicker of unease. Something about the manager's expression made her feel suddenly self-conscious. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to come with me," Amanda said, her voice clipped and professional. Jasmine blinked, caught off guard. "Excuse me, is there a problem?" she asked, trying to keep her tone polite despite her surprise. Amanda's face was impassive, her eyes cold and assessing. "I've been watching you for a while now. We have reason to believe you may have taken something from the store," she stated bluntly. Jasmine's mouth fell open. "Taken something? I haven't taken anything. I'm just looking at the jewelry, like any other customer." Her voice rose slightly, a mix of confusion and indignation creeping into her words. Amanda didn't seem fazed by Jasmine's response. She crossed her arms over her chest, maintaining her authoritative stance. "We have a strict protocol here at Prestige Palace," Amanda said. "We can't take any chances. If you haven't done anything wrong, this will be cleared up quickly. Now please come with me." Jasmine glanced around, noticing that other shoppers were starting to watch. Their eyes darted between her and Amanda, curiosity and judgment clear in their expressions. Jasmine felt a hot flush of embarrassment. She could feel the situation slipping out of her control, the disbelief and frustration building inside her. "This is absurd," Jasmine said, her voice low and steady. "I haven't done anything wrong. I came in here to buy a gift, and now you're treating me like a criminal." Amanda's expression didn't change. "We can discuss this in private," she said, nodding toward the back of the store. "If you don't come with me willingly, I'll have to call security." Before Jasmine could respond, David Lopez appeared at Amanda's side, his presence silent but looming. He glanced at Jasmine, then quickly looked away, his discomfort evident. Jasmine's eyes flicked between Amanda and David, her heart pounding with a mix of anger and disbelief. She felt trapped, as though the walls of the elegant store were closing in on her. David spoke up, his voice softer than Amanda's. "Ma'am, it's just a routine check. If you cooperate, this can be over quickly," he said, trying to sound reassuring, though the uncertainty in his voice was clear. Jasmine shook her head, her frustration boiling over. "Routine check? I've been browsing. There's nothing routine about this. You're accusing me without any proof." Her voice was louder now, and several heads turned in their direction. Amanda's patience seemed to thin. "Please keep your voice down," she said sharply. "This isn't a debate. Either you come with us now, or I'll have David escort you out of the store. Your choice." Jasmine clenched her fists at her sides, the urge to argue warring with her desire to avoid making a scene. She looked at David, hoping for some sign of empathy or support, but his expression remained guarded. Jasmine took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "Fine," she said through gritted teeth, "but I'm not letting you search me without a good reason. And I want a witness here. This is wrong, and I won't just stand by and let you treat me like this." Amanda nodded curtly. "That can be arranged," she said, turning to lead the way toward the back of the store. David motioned for Jasmine to follow, his eyes still averted. Jasmine felt the eyes of other customers on her as she walked, the whispers that followed her making her skin crawl. As they made their way to a small office at the back of the store, Jasmine's mind raced. She had done nothing wrong, but the way Amanda had confronted her, the certainty in her accusations, left her feeling exposed and vulnerable. This was more than just a misunderstanding. It felt like an attack on her very character, an assumption about who she was based solely on appearance. Inside the office, Amanda gestured for Jasmine to sit. The room was small, with a desk, a couple of chairs, and a locked cabinet along one wall. David stood by the door, his stance awkward, as if he wasn't sure where to place himself. "Now," Amanda said, leaning against the desk, "I need you to empty your pockets and open your bag. This will go faster if you cooperate." Jasmine hesitated, her mind flashing through her options. She could refuse, demand to see a lawyer, or call the police. But the thought of prolonging this ordeal in the cramped, sterile office made her stomach twist. She decided to comply, if only to prove her innocence and end this humiliation as quickly as possible. Slowly, Jasmine reached into her pockets, pulling out her phone, a set of keys, and a small tube of lip balm. She set them on the desk with deliberate movements. Then she opened her handbag, showing Amanda its contents: a wallet, a notebook, a pen, and a pair of sunglasses. Amanda peered into the bag, her expression still unreadable. Jasmine felt a spark of anger flare up as she watched Amanda scrutinize her personal belongings as if searching for evidence of a crime. Finally, Amanda straightened, clearly finding nothing of interest. "See?" Jasmine said, her voice shaking slightly. "There's nothing. I told you I didn't take anything." Amanda's face softened just a fraction, but her tone remained businesslike. "You may not have taken anything yet, but we still have our procedures. I'll be watching you closely if you decide to continue shopping." Jasmine's mouth tightened. "I'm not buying anything from this store now," she said. "I came in here for a gift, not to be treated like a thief." Amanda raised an eyebrow. "That's your choice, of course, but you need to understand we take these matters seriously. Our customers expect the highest level of security and service." Jasmine stood, gathering her things and putting them back into her pockets and bag. She looked at David, who had been silent throughout the ordeal. He finally met her eyes, and she thought she saw a flicker of something. Sympathy, maybe, or regret, but it was gone as quickly as it came. "This isn't about security," Jasmine said quietly, looking back at Amanda. "This is about profiling. You saw me, and you assumed I was here to cause trouble. That's not security. That's prejudice." Amanda's expression hardened. "We don't tolerate accusations of that kind, ma'am. If you feel our actions were unjustified, you're welcome to take it up with our customer service department." Jasmine didn't respond. She turned and walked out of the office, her steps firm and purposeful. David opened the door for her, and she felt his eyes on her back as she left. The whispers in the store had died down, but Jasmine could still feel the weight of the stares, the judgment in every glance that followed her out of Prestige Palace outside. Jasmine paused, breathing in the fresh air, trying to calm her racing heart. The encounter replayed in her mind, each word and action deepening her sense of violation. She pulled out her phone and dialed Rachel's number, her hand trembling slightly as she held the phone to her ear. "Rachel," Jasmine said when her friend answered, "I need to talk to you. Something happened, something wrong." She glanced back at the store, its glass facade reflecting the sunlight, giving no hint of the storm that had just erupted within. Jasmine turned away, a resolve forming in her mind. She wouldn't let this go. Not this time. Jasmine's heels clicked against the polished marble floor as she walked briskly out of Prestige Palace, her phone still pressed to her ear. The noise of the busy street faded as she moved to a quieter corner near the entrance, trying to steady her breathing. Rachel's voice on the other end of the line was calm, yet Jasmine could hear the concern in her friend's words. "Jasmine, slow down," Rachel said gently. "Tell me exactly what happened. From the beginning." Jasmine closed her eyes, trying to collect her thoughts. She described everything. Amanda's suspicious glances, the abrupt accusation, being led to the back office, and the humiliating search. As she spoke, she could feel the frustration and anger bubbling up again, raw and unfiltered. They treated me like a criminal," Rachel, Jasmine said, her voice breaking slightly. "All because they had a feeling. I was just shopping, minding my own business, and they pulled me aside like I was about to steal something." There was a brief silence on the line before Rachel spoke, her voice firm. "Jasmine, this is unacceptable. You didn't do anything wrong. They had no right to treat you that way. We need to do something about this." Jasmine sighed, leaning against the glass exterior of the store. "What can we do? I feel so helpless. I mean, it's their word against mine. They'll just say they were following protocol, that they were doing their job." Rachel's tone was resolute. "We file a complaint, a formal one, and if that doesn't get a response, we take it further. We can file a lawsuit for racial profiling. They can't just get away with this. It's not right, and it's not legal." Jasmine's mind raced. A lawsuit? It sounded daunting, almost impossible. But the more she thought about what had happened, the more she felt a spark of resolve. She wasn't just angry. She was tired of being seen a certain way, treated a certain way, simply because of how she looked. This wasn't just about her. It was about everyone who had ever faced the same silent judgment. "You think we can win?" Jasmine asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know we can," Rachel replied confidently. "You're not alone in this, Jasmine. I'm with you, and I'm sure we can find others who've had similar experiences. This isn't just about one incident. It's about challenging a pattern of behavior, a mindset that needs to change." Jasmine felt a sense of relief and gratitude wash over her. Rachel's unwavering support was a comfort in the midst of the chaos she felt. "Thank you, Rachel. I don't know what I'd do without you." Rachel's voice softened. "You don't have to do anything alone. I'll come by tonight, and we'll go over everything. Just hang in there, okay?" We'll get through this. After ending the call, Jasmine took a few moments to compose herself. She glanced back at the store, its grand entrance now feeling more like a barrier. She pushed off the glass wall and walked to her car, her steps more purposeful, her mind clearer. She was going to fight this, and she wasn't going to back down. Later that evening, Jasmine sat on her living room sofa, a cup of tea in her hands, waiting for Rachel. The apartment was quiet, save for the ticking of the wall clock. Jasmine's thoughts drifted back to the day's events, replaying each moment, each word exchanged with Amanda. The indignation she felt had only grown stronger. A knock on the door pulled Jasmine from her thoughts. She got up, opening it to find Rachel standing there, a determined look on her face. Rachel was carrying a briefcase, her expression professional, but with a hint of the personal concern she felt for her friend. "Hey," Rachel said, stepping inside and giving Jasmine a quick hug. "How are you holding up?" Jasmine shrugged, closing the door behind her. "Better now that you're here. I'm still angry, though. I can't believe they did that." Rachel nodded. "I get it. This is personal, but that's exactly why we need to approach it strategically. I brought some materials we can use to start drafting a complaint. We'll document everything." They moved to the dining table where Rachel pulled out a notebook and a laptop. She began typing as Jasmine recounted the details again, this time more methodically. They discussed each moment, each decision made by Amanda and David, identifying the flaws and biases in their actions. "You handled yourself well," Rachel said, taking notes. "You were calm and didn't escalate the situation. That's important. It shows that you were cooperative, and their actions were unjustified." Jasmine scoffed. "I didn't feel calm. I felt humiliated, like everyone was staring at me, judging me. And then Amanda, she was so sure, so certain that I was up to something. It's like she could not see me as a real person, just some stereotype she's supposed to watch out for." Rachel looked up from her notes, her eyes serious. "That's exactly why this lawsuit matters, Jasmine. It's about more than just this one incident. It's about challenging that automatic suspicion, that racial profiling. We need to make them see the damage it does, how it strips away dignity and respect." Jasmine nodded, her resolve hardening. "Let's do it. Whatever it takes. I don't want this to happen to anyone else, and I want them to know that what they did was wrong." Rachel smiled. "That's the spirit. We'll start with a formal complaint, and I'll contact some colleagues who might be able to help with the legal side of things. And I'm going to reach out to some advocacy groups, see if we can get some support. The more voices we have, the stronger our case." They spent the next few hours drafting the complaint, outlining the events, and detailing the emotional impact it had on Jasmine. By the time they finished, Jasmine felt a mixture of exhaustion and determination. It was a start, a step toward reclaiming her dignity and standing up for her rights. As Rachel packed up her things, she paused, looking at Jasmine. "You did great today, Jasmine. This isn't easy, but you're handling it with so much strength. Remember, you're not alone in this." Jasmine smiled, feeling a warmth of gratitude. "Thanks, Rachel, for everything. I couldn't do this without you." Rachel hugged her friend again. "We're in this together. We're going to make them listen, make them see, and we're going to win." Jasmine walked Rachel to the door, watching as she left. Closing the door behind her, Jasmine leaned against it for a moment, feeling the weight of the day lift just a little. She wasn't alone. She had Rachel, and she had a plan. She was going to fight back, and she was going to make a difference. Jasmine walked to the window, looking out at the city lights, her reflection faint against the glass. She had been humiliated today, but she wouldn't let that define her. Tomorrow, she would continue the fight, stronger and more determined. She wasn't just standing up for herself, she was standing up for everyone who had ever been judged unfairly. And with that thought, Jasmine felt a sense of calm wash over her, and she turned away from the window, ready to face whatever came next. Jasmine sat at her kitchen table the next morning, the sunlight streaming through the window, casting a warm glow on the cup of coffee in front of her. She stared at the steam rising from the mug, her mind still lingering on yesterday's events. Her phone buzzed on the table, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a text from Rachel. "Call me when you're ready. We'll get started on the next steps." Jasmine took a deep breath, feeling a sense of resolve settle in. She picked up the phone and dialed Rachel's number. It rang only once before Rachel answered. "Hey, Jasmine," Rachel said, her voice bright. "How are you feeling today?" Jasmine sighed. "Still a bit shaken, but I'm okay. I can't stop thinking about what happened. The way they looked at me like I was automatically guilty. I want to do something, Rachel. I don't want anyone else to go through what I did." Rachel's tone was reassuring. "And we will. I've already started drafting the formal complaint. We'll file it with the store's corporate office first, Then we can take it to the next level if they don't respond appropriately. This isn't going to be just about a complaint, Jasmine. We're going to push for policy changes. They need to know this isn't acceptable. Jasmine felt a small sense of relief hearing Rachel's confidence. What should I do? She asked. I want to help. I want to be part of this, not just a victim. Good, Rachel replied. I've been thinking about that. I want you to write a personal statement. Describe everything that happened, how it made you feel, and why you believe it was racially motivated. Be honest, even about the emotions. We'll use it as part of our documentation. Your voice is powerful, Jasmine. It's your experience that will make people listen. Jasmine nodded even though Rachel couldn't see her. I can do that. I'll start today. Should I also reach out to anyone else? Like maybe people I know who shop there to see if they've had similar experiences? Rachel paused for a moment. Yes, that's a good idea. If we can gather more testimonies, it strengthens our case. I'll also reach out to some civil rights organizations. If we get them involved, it adds more weight. This isn't just a personal issue, it's a societal one. Okay, Jasmine said, feeling more focused. I'll write my statement and start asking around. And Rachel, thank you for being there, for helping me with this. You don't have to thank me, Rachel said softly. You're my best friend, Jasmine. This is what friends do. Besides, this is important, not just for you, but for everyone who's ever been judged unfairly. We're making a stand, together. They ended the call, and Jasmine felt a surge of determination. She grabbed her laptop from the living room and brought it to the kitchen table. She opened a blank document and stared at the screen for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Then, she began to type. Personal statement of Jasmine Miller. Yesterday, I walked into Prestige Palace to buy a birthday gift for my best friend. I had every intention of finding something special, something that would show how much I appreciate her. Instead, I was accused of shoplifting. The store manager, Amanda Sterling, said she had been watching me and felt that I was acting suspiciously. She demanded that I come with her, then had a security guard search my belongings in a small office in the back of the store. At that moment, I felt humiliated. I felt small. I felt like my dignity was being stripped away, right in front of other customers who watched and whispered. I kept thinking, why me? What did I do to deserve this? I realized that it wasn't about what I did. It was about who I am and what I look like. I realized they saw my skin color and assumed I didn't belong. I wasn't seen as Jasmine Miller, a marketing consultant, a friend, a daughter. I was seen as a threat. This experience was not just hurtful, it was terrifying. It was a reminder of how easily my humanity could be disregarded based on nothing more than an assumption. I felt powerless. But I refuse to let this moment define me as a victim. Instead, I'm choosing to speak up. I'm choosing to fight back. Because this isn't just about me. It's about challenging a mindset that says people can be judged and humiliated based on their appearance. I want Prestige Palace to understand the impact of their actions. I want them to know that what they did was wrong. And I want them to change their policies so that no one else has to feel the way I did yesterday. Jasmine sat back, reading over her words. They felt right. Raw, honest, and powerful. She saved the document and sent it to Rachel. Then she picked up her phone and began scrolling through her contacts, looking for friends who might have had similar experiences at Prestige Palace or other high-end stores. By early afternoon, Jasmine had spoken to 3 friends. One of them, Maya, mentioned a similar incident where she felt watched and followed around the store, but hadn't been directly confronted. Another friend, Carla, said she stopped shopping at places like Prestige Palace because she felt out of place, like she was always being judged. These places just aren't welcoming, Carla said over the phone. They don't say it, but you can feel it. It's in the way they look at you, the way they don't offer help unless they think you're buying something expensive. It's subtle, but it's there. Jasmine thanked her friends for their input and hung up, feeling a mix of frustration and validation. She wasn't imagining it. Others felt it too. This wasn't just about one incident. It was part of a larger problem. As the day went on, Jasmine received a message from Rachel saying she had contacted a civil rights group that was interested in their case. They offered to provide additional legal support and help amplify Jasmine's story if it went to the media. Jasmine felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this could make a difference. Maybe her voice would be heard. That evening, Rachel came over again. They sat at the kitchen table, going over Jasmine's statement and the responses from her friends. Rachel's eyes shone with determination as she read through the document. This is strong, Jasmine, Rachel said. Your words have power. This is exactly what we need to show the emotional impact of their actions. And with the support from the civil rights group, we have a solid foundation for the lawsuit. We're not just going to get an apology. We're going to push for real change. Jasmine nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. What's our next move? We file the complaint officially, Rachel said, and then we prepare for any response from Prestige Palace. If they try to dismiss it or deny wrongdoing, we escalate. We get the media involved if we have to. The goal is to make this public enough that they can't just brush it under the rug. Jasmine felt a flicker of anxiety at the thought of going public, but she knew it was necessary. I'm ready, she said firmly. Whatever it takes, I don't want to back down from this. Rachel reached across the table, placing a hand on Jasmine's. You're doing the right thing, Jasmine, remember, and you're not alone. Remember that. We're going to make them see us, really see us. Jasmine squeezed Rachel's hand, feeling the solidarity between them. They were in this together, fighting not just for personal justice, but for the dignity of everyone who had been judged unfairly. As they sat there mapping out their strategy, Jasmine felt a strength she hadn't felt before. She was no longer just reacting. She was taking control, standing up for herself and others. This was only the beginning, but it was a start. A step toward justice, a step toward change. Jasmine woke up early the next morning, a sense of purpose replacing the heaviness that had weighed on her since the incident at Prestige Palace. She glanced at her phone, checking for messages. Rachel had already texted, meeting with the civil rights attorney at 10 a.m. at their office. I'll pick you up at 9:30. Jasmine replied with a quick, see you then, and began to get ready. By 9:30, Rachel's car pulled up outside Jasmine's apartment. Jasmine stepped out, wearing a navy blazer over a simple blouse, her expression determined. Rachel greeted her with a smile as Jasmine got into the car. Ready? Rachel asked, pulling away from the curb. As ready as I'll ever be, Jasmine replied. Do you think we'll get the support we need? Rachel nodded confidently. The attorney we're meeting, Linda Marks, is known for taking on high-profile discrimination cases. She's good at what she does, and she's passionate about civil rights. If anyone can help us, it's her. The ride to the office was filled with Rachel outlining their approach, making sure Jasmine felt prepared. When they arrived, the building was a modest but professional-looking structure in a bustling part of downtown. They headed up to the second floor, where the offices of the Civil Rights Organization were located. Linda Marks greeted them at the reception area, a woman in her late 40s with short, curly hair and a warm, welcoming smile. She wore a tailored suit and had an air of confidence that immediately put Jasmine at ease. Jasmine, Rachel, thank you for coming in, Linda said, shaking their hands. Please follow me. They walked down a corridor to a meeting room where a table was set up with folders and documents. Linda gestured for them to sit. I've gone over the initial complaint Rachel sent me, Linda began, taking a seat across from them. And first, I want to say I'm sorry for what you experienced, Jasmine. No one should be treated that way, especially in a place that's supposed to welcome customers. I believe you have a strong case here. Racial profiling is a serious issue, and we need to address it whenever it happens. Jasmine felt a mixture of relief and validation at Linda's words. Thank you, she said softly. It's hard to believe that someone would look at me and assume the worst without knowing anything about me. Linda nodded sympathetically. It's an unfortunate reality that many people face. Our goal is to make sure there are consequences for those actions. We'll start by filing the formal complaint with Prestige Palace's corporate office. I'll help draft the legal documents, and we'll send them out today. We're asking for an apology, policy changes, and sensitivity training for their staff. Rachel spoke up, her tone firm. And if they refuse or try to brush it off, Linda smiled slightly, a hint of determination in her eyes. If they refuse, we escalate. We file a lawsuit for racial discrimination and profiling. We get the media involved. Companies like Prestige Palace care about their public image. The threat of negative press often pushes them to take action. I've already contacted a few journalists who cover civil rights and social justice issues. They're interested in your story, Jasmine. If Prestige Palace doesn't respond appropriately, we'll make sure your story is heard. Jasmine felt a mix of anxiety and resolve. The thought of going public was daunting, but she knew it was necessary. I'm ready, Jasmine said. Whatever it takes, I want to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. Linda nodded approvingly. Good, we'll work together on this. I'll keep you both updated on any responses we get from the corporate office. In the meantime, if you think of anything else that might be relevant, let me know. Every detail helps build our case. They spent the next hour reviewing the formal complaint, outlining the specific demands they were making. Jasmine's personal statement was included, along with testimonies from her friends who had experienced similar treatment. By the time they left Linda's office, Jasmine felt a sense of empowerment. They were making progress. They were fighting back. The following week was a whirlwind of activity. Rachel and Jasmine met with Linda several times, refining their approach and preparing for potential responses from Prestige Palace. Meanwhile, Linda contacted the media, providing background information about the case without revealing Jasmine's identity just yet. One afternoon, Rachel called Jasmine with news. "A reporter from the Daily Times wants to do an interview," Rachel said excitedly. "They've been covering stories on racial discrimination and profiling. They think your case could be a significant piece. How do you feel about going public?" Jasmine hesitated. "It's scary," she admitted, "but if it helps bring attention to this issue, I'm willing to do it. I want people to know what happened. I want them to see that it's not just an isolated incident." Rachel's voice was filled with encouragement. "You're brave, Jasmine. You're turning something awful into a chance to make a difference. We'll prepare together. Linda can join us for the interview. You won't be alone." 2 days later, Jasmine found herself sitting in a cafe, waiting for the reporter from the Daily Times. Rachel and Linda sat beside her, providing moral support. Jasmine took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. She had agreed to use her real name, knowing the impact would be greater if she stood behind her story. The reporter, a young woman named Emily Torres, arrived with a notebook and a recorder. She introduced herself and expressed her sympathy for Jasmine's experience before starting the interview. "Jasmine, can you tell me what happened that day at Prestige Palace?" Emily asked gently, turning on the recorder. Jasmine took a deep breath and began recounting the events. She spoke about Amanda's suspicious glances, the accusation, the search, and the humiliation she felt. She described the sense of violation, of being judged solely by her appearance. Emily listened intently, jotting down notes. "How did that experience affect you?" she asked. "It made me feel small," Jasmine said, her voice steady, "like my dignity didn't matter, like who I am as a person didn't matter. All they saw was a stereotype, and I realized this isn't just about me. This is a broader issue. Racial profiling is something that affects so many people, and it needs to stop. We need to challenge these assumptions and hold people accountable for their actions." Linda added, "We're pushing for policy changes at Prestige Palace. We want them to implement sensitivity training and establish clear guidelines to prevent racial profiling. This isn't just about one lawsuit. It's about creating lasting change." Emily nodded, clearly moved by Jasmine's story. "Thank you for sharing this, Jasmine. Your courage is inspiring. I think your story will resonate with many readers. We'll make sure to present it with the sensitivity and seriousness it deserves." After the interview, Jasmine felt a mixture of relief and anticipation. She had spoken her truth, shared her experience with the world. Now it was up to the public to respond. As she left the cafe with Rachel and Linda, Jasmine knew that whatever happened next, she had taken a stand. She had refused to be silenced, and she had found her voice. A few days later, Jasmine received a call from Linda. "Prestige Palace responded," Linda said, her voice sounding cautious. "They're denying any wrongdoing, claiming it was a standard security check and not racially motivated. But they're offering to meet with us to discuss the issue." Jasmine felt her heart sink slightly. "So they're not admitting fault?" "No," Linda said, "but this is typical. They're testing the waters, seeing how serious we are. The fact that they want to meet means they're concerned about the potential fallout. This is where we show them we're not backing down. We go to the meeting, present our demands, and make it clear that we're prepared to take legal action and go public if they don't address this properly." Jasmine nodded, determination filling her voice. "Let's do it. We're not letting them get away with this. They need to understand the impact of their actions, and they need to make real changes." As Jasmine hung up the phone, she felt a sense of purpose solidify within her. They were making progress, and the support from the civil rights organization and the media attention was adding weight to their cause. Jasmine knew the fight wasn't over, but she was ready to see it through to the end. She sat down at her kitchen table, glancing at the notes she had taken throughout the process. Each word, each meeting, each step was part of the larger journey toward justice. Jasmine was no longer just reacting to what had happened. She was actively shaping the outcome. And in that moment, she felt stronger than she ever had before. Jasmine sat in her car, parked outside Prestige Palace for the first time since the incident. She hadn't planned to come here today, but something had drawn her back. She needed to see it again, to remind herself why she was fighting. She was about to get out of the car when her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize. Jasmine hesitated for a moment, then answered. "Hello?" There was a brief pause, then a familiar voice spoke. "Jasmine, this is David Lopez. I'm the security guard from Prestige Palace." Jasmine felt her breath catch. She hadn't expected to hear from him. "David, why are you calling me?" I know this is out of the blue," David said, his voice nervous. "I got your number from a colleague. I wanted to talk to you. Can we meet? I feel like I owe you an apology. Jasmine was silent for a moment, trying to process his words. An apology? After everything that had happened, she didn't know how to respond. Please, David continued, I just want a chance to explain. I feel terrible about what happened. I didn't want to do it, but I need you to understand. Jasmine's initial anger softened slightly. She could hear the sincerity in David's voice, a hint of desperation. She knew what it was like to carry the weight of something wrong, something that didn't sit right. Maybe it was worth hearing him out. Okay, Jasmine said finally. I'm actually outside Prestige Palace right now. Can you meet me here? Yes, I'm on my lunch break, David replied quickly. I'll be right out. Jasmine ended the call, still feeling uncertain. She stepped out of her car and leaned against it, watching the entrance of the store. A few minutes later, David emerged, looking around until he spotted her. He walked over, his steps hesitant. David was in his late 20s, with dark hair cropped short and a look of worry etched on his face. He wore his security uniform, the black and white colors standing out against the bright background of the street. Jasmine, David said as he approached, thank you for agreeing to meet. I know you don't have to listen to me. Jasmine crossed her arms over her chest. I'm here. What do you want to say? David glanced around as if making sure no one was watching. I'm really sorry about what happened that day, he said quietly. I know that probably doesn't mean much, but I didn't want to do it. Amanda, she's the manager, you know? She gave me a direct order, and I was afraid of losing my job if I didn't follow through. Jasmine's expression remained guarded. So you just did it anyway, even though you knew it was wrong? David looked down at his feet. Yes, he admitted. I know that's not an excuse. I could have said something, but I didn't. I've been thinking about it every day since. I don't know how to make it right, but I wanted to apologize. I'm sorry for what you went through. Jasmine felt a mix of emotions, anger, sympathy, frustration. She had spent so much time thinking about Amanda's role in what happened, but she hadn't really considered David's perspective. Hearing him now, seeing the guilt on his face, made her feel a little conflicted. Why are you telling me this now? Jasmine asked. Why didn't you say something when it happened? David sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Because I was scared. I've seen what happens when people stand up to Amanda. She's powerful and she has connections. I didn't want to lose my job. I have a family to support, but that's no excuse for what I did. I can't keep this to myself anymore. I needed to tell you. I needed to say I'm sorry. Jasmine studied him for a moment. His eyes were sincere, filled with regret. She knew that feeling, the heaviness of knowing you'd let someone down, even if it was out of fear. She couldn't fully forgive him yet, but she understood his struggle. You know this isn't just about you or me, right? Jasmine said finally. It's about the whole system that makes people think it's okay to treat others like this. It's about more than just one incident. David nodded. I know, and that's why I wanted to help. If you're filing a complaint, if this goes to court, I want to testify. I want to tell them what really happened. I'll say that Amanda made the call, that I didn't see you do anything wrong. Maybe it won't make up for what I did, but I want to do the right thing now. Jasmine felt a flicker of hope. David's testimony could be crucial. It would give weight to her case, showing that even the security guard had doubts about the accusations. But more than that, it showed her that change was possible, even in small ways. All right, Jasmine said. If you're willing to testify, it could make a big difference. I'll let my lawyer know. We're having a meeting with Prestige Palace soon. If it comes to it, we might need you. David looked relieved. Thank you, Jasmine. I know I messed up, but I want to make it right. I'll do whatever I can to help. Jasmine nodded. Okay, I appreciate that. But remember, this is bigger than just an apology. We're trying to change things, so this doesn't keep happening. Be ready for that. David gave a small, determined nod. I will. I'm ready. As David turned to go back inside, Jasmine watched him for a moment, feeling a strange mix of emotions. She was still angry about what had happened, but seeing David's remorse and willingness to stand up gave her a sense of validation. She wasn't alone in recognizing the wrongness of what had happened. People could change, and that gave her hope. Later that day, Jasmine met with Rachel at a small coffee shop near her apartment. She recounted her conversation with David, watching Rachel's reaction closely. David wants to testify? Rachel asked, eyebrows raised in surprise. Yes, Jasmine said, taking a sip of her coffee. He said he feels guilty about what happened, that he didn't really believe I did anything wrong. He was just following orders because he was afraid of Amanda. Rachel nodded thoughtfully. That's significant. His testimony could really support our case, especially since he's on the inside. It shows that there was doubt, even among the staff. Jasmine felt a sense of relief hearing Rachel's words. Do you think it will be enough? It's a strong addition. And Shaitamai, Rachel said, but we still need to prepare for the meeting with Prestige Palace. They might try to downplay it or claim it's just one person's opinion. We need to stay focused on the bigger picture. Policy changes, training, and accountability. Jasmine's resolve strengthened. I'm ready. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about how this is about more than just me. It's about everyone who's ever been judged unfairly, who's ever felt like they were less than because of how they look. I want to make sure our voices are heard. Rachel smiled, pride evident in her eyes. That's exactly the mindset we need. You're doing an amazing job, Jasmine. This is how change happens, one step at a time, with people willing to stand up and say enough is enough. They continued to strategize, mapping out their approach for the upcoming meeting. Jasmine felt a sense of purpose, a clarity she hadn't felt in a long time. This wasn't just about fighting for herself. It was about making a difference, pushing for a world where people weren't judged based on their appearance. As they wrapped up, Jasmine's phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Linda Marks, their attorney. Meeting with Prestige Palace scheduled for Friday at 2 p.m. Let's make sure we're ready. Jasmine showed the message to Rachel, who nodded. Let's do this, Jasmine said firmly. Let's make them see us, really see us. Jasmine left the coffee shop with a sense of determination. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she knew she was not alone. With Rachel, Linda, and now David on her side, they had the strength to face whatever came their way. As Jasmine walked back to her apartment, the city's noise buzzing around her, she felt a renewed sense of hope. Change was possible, and she was ready to be part of it. Friday afternoon arrived, bringing with it a sense of anticipation and tension. Jasmine stood outside the office building where the meeting with Prestige Palace's representatives was scheduled, her heart beating faster than usual. She was dressed in a simple yet professional outfit, a gray blazer over a white blouse with black slacks. Rachel stood beside her, a reassuring presence in her crisp business suit. Linda Marks, their attorney, was waiting inside, ready to lead the discussion. Are you okay? Rachel asked, placing a hand on Jasmine's shoulder. You look a little nervous. Jasmine took a deep breath, trying to calm the jitters in her stomach. I'm okay. Just, it feels real now, you know? We're actually facing them. Rachel nodded. I get it. But remember, we're not alone. We have the truth on our side, and Linda is one of the best. We've prepared for this. Just speak from the heart, like you did before. You've got this. Jasmine nodded, drawing strength from Rachel's words. You're right. Let's go. They entered the building and took the elevator up to the conference room on the third floor. As they stepped inside, Jasmine saw Linda already seated at the long table reviewing some documents. She looked up and gave Jasmine and Rachel a confident smile. Right on time, Linda said. Take a seat. They'll be here any minute. Jasmine and Rachel sat down, and Linda handed them copies of the agenda for the meeting. Remember, Linda said, her voice steady and calm, our goal is to make them acknowledge what happened and agree to our terms. An apology, policy changes, and sensitivity training. Stay focused, stay calm, and let me handle most of the talking. Jasmine, you'll have a chance to share your experience, but I'll guide you through it. Jasmine nodded, feeling a bit more grounded. She glanced around the room, noticing the clean, professional decor, neutral walls, a few abstract paintings, and a large window overlooking the city. It was a far cry from the back office where she had been detained at Prestige Palace, but the tension in the air was similar. A moment later, the door opened, and 3 people entered. Jasmine recognized Amanda Sterling immediately. She was dressed in a sleek black suit, her expression guarded. With her were 2 men in suits. One was the store's district manager, Robert Clay, a tall man with graying hair and a serious demeanor. The other was a lawyer representing Prestige Palace, a younger man with a briefcase and an air of confidence. Good afternoon, Linda greeted them, standing to shake hands. I'm Linda Marks, representing Jasmine Miller. This is Rachel Owens, also part of our team. And of course, you know Ms. Miller. Good afternoon, Robert Clay said, his tone polite but businesslike. I'm Robert Clay, the district manager. This is Amanda Sterling, our store manager, and Mark Denton, our legal counsel. Let's get started, shall we? They all took their seats, facing each other across the table. The atmosphere was thick with formality, each side measuring the other. Linda began, her voice steady. We're here to discuss the incident that took place on August 26th at Prestige Palace, involving my client, Jasmine Miller. As you know, Ms. Miller was accused of shoplifting without evidence, detained, and searched, which caused her significant emotional distress. We believe this action was motivated by racial profiling, and we are seeking an apology, policy changes, and sensitivity to training for all staff to prevent such incidents from occurring in the future. Mark Denton, the store's lawyer, leaned forward slightly. Ms. Marks, Prestige Palace maintains that the actions taken by our staff were standard security procedures implemented to ensure the safety and integrity of our store. We do not engage in racial profiling, and any accusation suggesting otherwise is unfounded. Jasmine felt a spark of anger, but kept her expression calm. She knew this was coming. The denial, the refusal to acknowledge of any wrongdoing. Linda remained composed, her voice never wavering. Standard procedures do not justify targeting a customer based on appearance, Linda said firmly. Ms. Miller was detained without cause. No stolen items were found, and there was no behavior to suggest theft. The only factor that seemed to prompt suspicion was her race. Amanda shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her eyes flicking to Jasmine for a brief moment before looking away. Jasmine held Amanda's gaze, her expression steady. She wanted Amanda to see her, to understand the impact of her actions. We have statements from other employees, including the security guard involved. David Lopez, Linda continued. He will testify that he did not see any suspicious behavior from Ms. Miller and that he felt pressured to act on the manager's orders. His testimony will support our claim of racial profiling. Robert Clay interjected, his tone cautious. We understand the seriousness of the allegations, Ms. Marks. We are willing to discuss possible solutions, but we cannot admit to racial profiling when our staff was following security protocols. Jasmine felt her frustration rising. It was clear they were trying to sidestep the issue, offering vague concessions without taking responsibility. She decided it was time to speak up. With all due respect, Jasmine said, her voice firm but calm, this isn't just about procedures. It's about the impact those procedures have when they're based on assumptions about people like me. I was treated like a criminal because of my appearance. That's not just bad customer service. It's discrimination. And it's not something that can be brushed aside. Amanda shifted again, looking more uncomfortable. Jasmine pressed on. I didn't do anything wrong that day. I was there to shop, like any other customer. But you didn't see me that way. You saw me as a threat based on nothing but my skin color. That's why we're here, because it's not okay. It's not okay to judge someone based on how they look. And it's not okay to assume the worst about people because of stereotypes. There was a moment of silence in the room. Jasmine's words hung in the air, undeniable and true. Linda gave Jasmine a nod, showing her support. Mark Denton cleared his throat. We understand that this situation has caused distress, Ms. Miller, and we are prepared to discuss a settlement to address your concerns. However, we must clarify that any settlement would be without admission of wrongdoing. Linda leaned forward, her gaze unwavering. We're not here just for a settlement. We're here for accountability and change. We want a commitment to implement policies that prevent racial profiling, sensitivity training for staff, a public apology, and clear guidelines to ensure this doesn't happen again. That's non-negotiable. Robert Clay looked at Amanda, then at Mark Denton. The lawyer nodded slightly, signaling that they needed to consider the terms carefully. We'll take these demands under advisement, Robert said slowly. We need to consult with our corporate office before making any commitments. However, we want to assure you that Prestige Palace is committed to creating a welcoming environment for all customers. Linda's expression was firm. We'll expect a response within the next week. If we don't see a commitment to the changes we've outlined, we'll proceed with filing a formal lawsuit and involving the media. This isn't just about one person's experience. It's about setting a precedent and making sure no one else has to go through this. The meeting ended with a tense silence. As they left the conference room, Jasmine felt a mixture of relief and frustration. They hadn't gotten the immediate resolution she had hoped for, but they had made their demands clear. Now it was up to Prestige Palace to respond. That evening, Jasmine and Rachel sat together in Jasmine's living room, debriefing the day's events. Linda had left after assuring them she would handle all communications with Prestige Palace going forward. How do you feel? Rachel asked, pouring them both glasses of water. Tired, Jasmine admitted, but also hopeful. I think we made them listen. At least, I hope we did. Rachel nodded. You were amazing in there, Jasmine. You spoke your truth, and it made a difference. I could see it on their faces. They know they can't just ignore this. Jasmine managed a small smile. I'm glad David is willing to testify. It adds weight to our case. I just wish they'd admit they were wrong. Rachel squeezed Jasmine's hand. They will. We'll keep pushing until they do. And even if they never say it out loud, we'll make sure they change. That's what matters. Jasmine took a deep breath, feeling the exhaustion of the day settle in. Yeah, you're right. It's about the change, not just the words. We'll keep fighting, won't we? Rachel smiled. Always. We're in this together. As they sat in the quiet of the apartment, Jasmine felt a sense of peace. She had stood up for herself and others. The battle wasn't over, but she knew she had the strength to see it through. They had made their voices heard, and that was the first step toward real change. A week had passed since the meeting with Prestige Palace, and Jasmine was starting to feel the strain of waiting. Every day she checked her email and phone, hoping for news from Linda. The uncertainty hung over her like a dark cloud, making it hard to focus on anything else. She knew this was part of the process, but it didn't make the waiting any easier. Rachel had been checking in regularly, offering support and encouragement. Jasmine appreciated it more than she could express, but the anxiety still gnawed at her. She had stood up in that meeting, faced Amanda and the corporate representatives, laid bare her experience, and demanded change. Now all she could do was wait to see if it had made a difference. One morning, as Jasmine was getting ready for the day, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. She glanced at the screen and saw Linda's name. Her heart leapt into her throat. With trembling hands, she answered the call. Linda? Good morning, Jasmine, Linda said, her voice calm and professional. I have some news. I just received a response from Prestige Palace's corporate office. Jasmine felt her pulse quicken. What did they say? They've agreed to meet our demands, Linda said. They're offering a formal public apology for the incident. They're also committing to implement mandatory sensitivity training for all employees starting immediately. They've agreed to revise their security protocols to ensure that all customers are treated with respect and dignity, regardless of appearance. Jasmine's eyes widened, a wave of relief washing over her. They agreed to all of it? Yes, Linda confirmed. They understand that this situation has drawn media attention and that there's a risk of legal action. They've decided it's in their best interest to address the issue head-on. They've asked for a press conference where they can issue the apology publicly. They want you to be there, Jasmine. They want to acknowledge your courage and use this as an opportunity to show that they're taking meaningful steps to change. Jasmine felt tears prick her eyes. After everything she had been through, to hear that her fight had made a real impact was overwhelming. I don't know what to say, she admitted, her voice breaking. I didn't think they'd actually listen. They're listening, Jasmine, Linda said gently. You made them listen. This is a victory, not just for you, but for everyone who's ever been judged or mistreated because of their appearance. You should be proud of yourself. This kind of change doesn't come easily. Jasmine took a deep breath, trying to steady her emotions. When is the press conference? They want to hold it tomorrow afternoon, Linda said. I'll be there with you, along with Rachel. We'll make sure everything goes smoothly. They're preparing a statement, but you'll have the chance to speak if you want to. It's your call. Jasmine nodded, even though Linda couldn't see her. I want to speak. I want to make sure they understand why this matters. Absolutely, Linda said. I'll send you the details. Take some time to prepare. You've got this, Jasmine. I'll see you tomorrow. As Jasmine ended the call, a sense of calm settled over her. This was it, the moment she had been fighting for. She had turned a painful experience into an opportunity for change. Her voice had made a difference. The next afternoon, Jasmine stood outside Prestige Palace, the same store where the incident had occurred. A podium had been set up in front of the entrance, surrounded by reporters, cameras, and a small crowd of onlookers. A banner displayed the store's name above the door, looking almost apologetic in the bright afternoon light. Rachel stood by Jasmine's side, her hand resting on Jasmine's shoulder. You okay? She asked softly. Jasmine nodded, though her heart was racing. Yeah, just nervous. I've never done anything like this before. You'll be great, Rachel assured her. Just speak from the heart, like you always do. This is your moment. Linda approached them, holding a folder with notes. Jasmine, the CEO of Prestige Palace, Michelle Anderson, will start with the company's apology. After that, you'll have the floor. Remember, you don't have to say anything you're not comfortable with. Just be yourself. Jasmine nodded, feeling a wave of gratitude for the support around her. Thank you, both of you. I couldn't have done this without you. Linda gave a reassuring smile. We're in this together. Let's make a difference. A few minutes later, Michelle Anderson stepped up to the podium, a serious expression on her face. The cameras flashed, capturing every moment. Michelle adjusted the microphone and began to speak. Good afternoon, Michelle said. My name is Michelle Anderson, CEO of Prestige Palace. I want to begin by acknowledging the incident that occurred on August 26 involving Jasmine Miller. Ms. Miller was unfairly accused of shoplifting, detained, and searched without any evidence. This was a serious mistake, and it caused Ms. Miller unnecessary distress and humiliation. Michelle paused, letting her words sink in. Prestige Palace takes these matters very seriously. We are committed to creating an environment where all customers are treated with respect and dignity, regardless of their appearance. We recognize that our actions were wrong and that they were influenced by unconscious biases that have no place in our stores. Jasmine listened intently, feeling a mix of emotions. The apology was sincere, but it couldn't erase what had happened. Still, it was a step in the right direction. As part of our commitment to change, Michelle continued, we will be implementing mandatory sensitivity training for all our employees. We will revise our security protocols to prevent incidents like this from occurring in the future. And we will work closely with organizations dedicated to promoting racial equality to ensure that our policies reflect our values. Michelle turned to Jasmine, her expression earnest. Ms. Miller, on behalf of Prestige Palace, I offer my deepest apologies. Your courage in speaking out has prompted us to reflect and make necessary changes. Thank you for helping us become better. There was a murmur of agreement from the crowd. Jasmine felt a lump in her throat as Michelle stepped aside and gestured for her to take the podium. Jasmine took a deep breath, stepped forward, and faced the crowd. The cameras turned toward her, and the silence felt heavy. Thank you, Jasmine began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. Thank you, Ms. Anderson, for your apology and for the commitment to change. I came here that day to buy a gift, to celebrate a friend. Instead, I was treated like a criminal. I was judged not by my actions, but by my appearance. That kind of judgment, that kind of profiling, is wrong. It hurts people. It strips away dignity, and it has to stop. Jasmine paused, gathering her thoughts. I didn't want to be here today because of what happened, but I'm here because I believe in change. I believe in the power of standing up and saying, this isn't right. And I believe that together we can make a difference. We can challenge the biases that lead to incidents like mine. We can create spaces where everyone feels respected, valued, and safe. She looked directly at the cameras, hoping her words would reach those who needed to hear them. This isn't just about me. It's about everyone who's ever been judged unfairly, who's ever felt like they don't belong because of how they look. We all deserve better. And today, we're taking a step toward making that happen. Thank you. As Jasmine stepped back, the crowd erupted into applause. Rachel and Linda both smiled at her, their expressions filled with pride. Jasmine felt a sense of relief and accomplishment. She had spoken her truth and it had been heard. Michelle Anderson approached Jasmine and extended her hand. Thank you, Ms. Miller, Michelle said sincerely. Your courage has made us better. We're committed to following through on these changes. Jasmine shook Michelle's hand. Thank you for listening. I hope this is just the beginning. As the press conference concluded, reporters gathered around Jasmine, asking questions, wanting to know more about her story. Linda and Rachel helped navigate the media, ensuring Jasmine wasn't overwhelmed. Jasmine answered a few questions, emphasizing the importance of continued efforts to combat racial profiling and discrimination. When the crowd finally dispersed, Jasmine felt a wave of exhaustion mixed with exhilaration. She had done it. She had faced the people who had wronged her, demanded change, and had seen results. Rachel hugged her tightly. You were amazing, Jasmine. You really were. I'm so proud of you. Linda nodded in agreement. This is how change happens. You've set a powerful example, Jasmine. Others will see this and know they can stand up too. Jasmine smiled, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. I couldn't have done it without you both. Thank you for being there with me. They left Prestige Palace together, the sun shining brightly overhead. As they walked down the street, Jasmine felt a sense of peace and possibility. This was just one victory in a long battle, but it was a start. And for the first time in a long time, Jasmine felt hopeful about the future.